Yeah, so today on our agenda, we're just going to be talking about some of the technical details of the project and try to get people interested in contributing to um, the website, and also we're going to be talking about the hackathon, right, Chris? Take that as a yes.
Chris left, or he's
Yeah, he's
connected on
rejoining.
computer, right? But yes, that is the truth, Randy.
Yes, there we go. So we'll give him a moment to reconnect. But yeah, so we have a little PowerPoint presentation. So we're going to be overviewing some of the technical challenges that the project has to overcome. And we're hoping to get everyone interested in contributing, either with map data or with code, or however you can contribute. You don't necessarily have to be a programmer to help out. There we go.
Hey, thanks for your patience, everybody.
Alrighty. So do you want to start with the slideshow then, Chris?
Yeah, I think that's probably the easiest way. Yeah. So for those so there may be some of you who have not joined the previous call we had back in January, kicking off this project. Just in case. So we have a community project we are working on, and it's going to involve a number of hackathons this year, centered around cycling. We want to make a service that makes cycling safer, easier for the whole county. What we're looking at doing in the spring is a first hackathon. So a first take at how we can set a system up that everyone can use. And even we're still, the conversation is still at a point where we're talking about what form this service will take. So I'll be sending this presentation out to you afterwards. You can see we've got some details on the hackathon here. We'll get into that maybe a little bit later when we have some time. Registration for the hackathon on this link. And then we also have, of course, I think you already all know here, if you've joined this call, our Discord channel. So what we're going to do today is just kind of take another quick look at OSM and CyclOSM. It's been a couple months. Randy will take over. We'll talk a little bit about the repository and its current state. And then we're going to jump right into challenges. So today is really, kind of an open discussion. Let's talk about what you guys have seen for those of you who've already kind of looked into this and been thinking about this. And would love to hear from those of you who haven't seen anything yet about this, and this is your first time hearing about all this. Cool. So what we're looking at is a cycle app that is based on data coming from OpenStreetMap. So for those of you who haven't heard that, it's a great mapping system. It's not for profit, and it is the licensing is very flexible on this. It's an extremely highly used platform, not only by individuals, but by major corporations too. CyclOSM is software, and it's a repository from which we've derived our own that sits on top of that, and it essentially provides customized code that helps for cycling. So for example, routing is a great service there. Okay. So that's a little quick, but I think most of today is just going to be discussion on what we're doing with the code. That is, after all, what the Border City Java group is for. All right, Randy, how would you like to do this? Do you want to would you like to share screen and kind of check out the code base? How would you like to approach this piece?
Yeah, there's a few. Let me. We'll talk about some of the. So I want to put everything into. Yeah, so you can stop sharing, and I'm gonna get a whole. I gotta apologize here. I'm less organized than I need to be. So, and this will kind of talk about, we'll kind of go into some of the challenges too. So some of the issues that we're going to have to figure out how to deal with. I just want to get all of these into one thing. And then I will talk about everything. Okay. Cool. Okay. Put that over there. Put that away. Okay. Cool. So I can start sharing in 1 second. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I guess the first thing that's worth talking about is what exactly OpenStreetMap is. So, well, it's a collection of data, and then what they use that data for is they use that data to create tiles. So they create maps like this using that data. So this is if you went to OpenStreetMap.org, this is what you would get to. So it kind of looks like Google Map, but there isn't any sort of like information, like you can't click on businesses and stuff like that. So you can't do any of that stuff. So it's just a interactive map in a way. And they have different different map layers. And they actually do have here the cycle. So OSM stands for OpenStreetMap. So you can actually click on this and you can see the information here as well. So this is looking at downtown Windsor. So you can see here the maps are very different, right? So you have this here and this here. So they're using the same data, but what happens is they're generating different tiles and highlighting different features. So for example, you can see here it's highlighting your cycle lanes. I can't remember. Is there a legend here or not? Key map for the layer. Oh.
Yeah, I think if you close down this X, there should be a menu underneath in the eye icon.
Yeah. No. It's there isn't in the other one, which we'll go look at later. But anyway, so this is also showing you like where the trails are. And if we zoom in here, you can see here, these dots here are where you can lock your bike up. So in the original map, so if we go back to the standard, you'll see that a lot of that information isn't, well, it does have some of it there. You can see P and you can see the bike there, right? But there's a lot more information in these tiles because they're specific to biking, right? So it has like how many slots would be available in each one. So only 2 here and 4 and 4, for example, right? Okay, so how this stuff is created is using something like this. So so if anyone is curious, there's an organization on GitHub called CyclOSM, and it has all of their the 2 different things. They have like a website example, which basically is this. So it's an example of this. This is not exactly that one. And then this other repo here is all the styles information for creating the tiles. So the tiles are, let me just move this out of my way. The tiles are what shows all this information, right? That's what this is. So for example, if we wanted to change how a particular, like, so let's say, for example, we wanted to make this dot here, I don't know, green or something, right? We would have to fork this project and make the changes to the repository here. So there's a bunch of, we're not going to go into all the details quite yet of what all this is. And And then you would make the changes here. So you turn it to green, and then you would serve this as a server, and this would become your tile server. Okay. And information on how to deal with all of the changing of those
Visual elements.
symbols and the styling and everything like that is all controlled through this Cardo CSS project. It's kind of like a standard. Is that right to say, Chris? It's kind of a standard.
It's the format. It's the format in which, that's
like
CyclOSM
MML files.
Yeah, for tiler data.
Yeah. So you can see all those files inside of here. There's one, for example. And there's a bunch of other ones. And then there's some symbols and stuff in here as well. And these are all just CSV files. So you can see here, one ways. So that's the first part. And as of right now, I needed to go to, I'm also not signed in, aren't I? All right, I wanted to show this. Give me one moment. Where is it? Sorry, I just wanted to pull up the project. Where? Here it is. This is what I want. So currently, what we have is we've forked over the Cycle OpenStreetMap website repository, and that's on the HackForge organization on GitHub. And this was a decent starting point, just to kind of like get an example going. So to get to this version running, why is it trying to do all that? Oh my God, I can't stop. Here we go. Yeah. So if you go to the C3 Tech part on the HackForge website, you can see all this stuff. So this repository here is what this is. So it has some information here. You close this out and you have, it pretty much looks like the OpenStreetMap CyclOSM layer, but it's a little bit more specific to our region. So for example, when you first open it up, I think it's bound here or something like that. It'll directly go to Windsor-Essex area, and then you can start moving around and stuff like that. So cool. Does anyone have any questions thus far? I don't have the chat open. I should open that. Cool. Does anyone have any input? You want to add anything? Okay.
I think that's a pretty good overview of how the software, of what the purpose of the software is. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, but I guess we can talk about a little bit with the plans. So the plans is this repository here, and making changes to this site is difficult in its current state. So I've been working with Chris on creating a different repository that will basically be this, but in a way where it's a lot easier to make changes to. So for example, we could add in, because, so by the way, all of this behind the scenes uses Leaflet. So I can go there real fast. Leaflet.js. So so this is the leaflet project. So this is a JavaScript project that allows us to do all sorts of fun stuff. So if you can, here's an example of it here. So it uses OpenStreetMap. So all we have to do is we point leaflet to the CyclOSM tiling server, which is an example of how to do that is, well, this is for OpenStreetMap, but this is how you would do it. Add it to the map, you set your view, and then from here, what we can do is we can add markers, right? So for example, if we wanted to add points of interest around Windsor-Essex area, for example, let's say we could put in markers that mark nice picnic areas if you want to bike and have a picnic, or something like that. We could also put businesses that have that want bikers to come to their business or something like that. A whole bunch of fun stuff. So that's what Leaflet allows us to do. Leaflet allows us to add some interaction with the map, and that's also how we display our layers in this. So to contribute all that stuff, or to add our own data and add our own markers and all that fun stuff, the repository needs to be in a good state so that we can easily maintain all of that information when we want to add it to the project. So that's what Chris and I are kind of working on now. And we're hopefully going to have that done in the next little while. So you should be seeing that shortly. So yeah, does anyone have any questions, comments, or concerns?
That was a pretty good overview. Yeah. Does anyone want to see any deeper into that code on the, I think you saw the link there to our own repository. If you don't, we'll make sure that that's in there. We could drop
we'll have
drop that in the chat too, so if anyone wants to explore it right now, in case they get questions during the call. This one,
again, it's just it's really just a fork off of the CyclOSM website. So there's not really much functionality here. Mm-hmm. We're going to be changing things a little bit. So have it semi-working. This is what I currently have running locally. And there's some minor changes and updates that I've done so far, but it's not fully complete. But we'll get there. We'll get there. And the plan is to eventually to be able to support the possibility of having our own tiling server if we wanted, and also being able to possibly support routing and stuff like that. So actually, Chris, would you be able to share the slideshow again? And we can just do a quick overview of the challenges.
Yeah, let's do that.
And then we can jump back. So I'll start mine.
Okay, we'll skip over some of the slides for the repository and the structure for now. So where we're at right now, and 100% would love to start talking about these things, coming up with some ideas with our community here on how to resolve some of this stuff. First off, there is a learning curve to Leaflet. We do have a developer's guide right here. So if you want to kind of dig into that stuff that interests you, then we could, the more, let's pull our brains together and get a little more expert at that piece. BRouter here. So BRouter was, so actually we should probably demonstrate what BRouter is first.
Yeah, I can share my screen and go for it and go to it. Yeah,
pretty quick. So BRouter is just a pretty neat routing service that is not actually offered on the same website. You'll notice, BRouter basically is a separate service that you can access through CyclOSM. but it
Yeah.
actually brings you to its own website here. You can see BRouter.de.
Yeah. So it's kind of neat. So one of the things you can cycling and you can add route quality. Oops, that doesn't work.
It does not work all the time.
No. Oh yeah, that's just a different layer. That's fine. Okay. So there's some trails that you can see here. So I actually don't know what the TGT stands for. Is that the which one is the Chrysler thing? Is that
Yeah,
this
it's
one?
part of it. You can see it right there where it turns due south.
Okay.
Yeah, the
This
blue
part?
that, yeah, right
Yeah.
there. That's part of that.
Right.
And
So
the whole parkway.
let's say we wanted to go from I don't know, let's pick a place downtown. We're gonna go from here, so we can edit a route. So I'm gonna go from here, and I want to go to let's follow this now. We're gonna go all the way to Harrow. Why not? We're gonna go here. So then what BRouter does, oops, didn't want to do that, but sure, we'll keep it. We'll go down to here. I can click that off. There we go. That's what I wanted. So what BRouter does is it kind of figures out a route for you. But what you can do is, I'm just trying to remember, I think it's in this. So stick to cycle routes, for example. Allow ferries. We don't need to use ferries. And it will recalculate based on known routes. So see how it was having me go down, I think it was like Howard all the way down. And now it's having me go and use the actual trail here. And it will also highlight certain parts in red. I think that's elevation, I think, or traffic. I can't remember which one. It's like a high traffic area, or it's also elevation. So it considers a lot. And but the only drawback to this right now, so you can follow it all the way down to where it suggests that we go all the way down here. The only downside is you have to use it in this interface, right? So you can't use it over here, which is a bit of a bummer. So what you can do now is you can export this and you can load it into different things. And you can also do so what's the that cycling app? I always forget the name of it. The one that everyone uses to track your,
Yeah.
somebody knows. Strava. Yes. Thank you, Doug. You can take your route, so you can plan your route using BRouter and you can import it into Strava. Hopefully I'm saying that right. And yeah, it's kind of cool. But it would be nice if we could have we could use a tiling layer like this and also have like other points of interest. So for example, it would be kind of nice if, let's say, I don't know, you wanted to go from, if we had like maybe some businesses on here, so you click a business and then you could go to another business, or I don't know, maybe there's a park, be like from a park to a park, and it would like figure out a route for you and try to make it as safe as possible. All that other fun stuff. Now, as far as so Chris and I, we've been looking at some of the code for this, and right now BRouter, it's mostly meant to be used as an Android app. And we can look at some of the code now for this. So here's the BRouter project, and I can share this with everyone else. And I'll also share this. So this allows you to use BRouter in an offline way, which is really, really cool. So you can actually go use this now, by the way, if you're interested. There is a BRouter app on Android, but if you wanted to make your own, you can use this project to build BRouter into your own Android app if you want, which begs the question, is this only for Android? Is it possible to make it so that you could also have, and these are some of the challenges that we want to overcome or start thinking about, is can BRouter be used cross-platform in the mobile space? But also, how much work would it be involved having our own server, or do we even have to have our own server? So for example, the BRouter web project is the so you can see here, here's a little GIF of it using for hiking trails. And it shows you the elevation and stuff. It's pretty cool. So this project uses a BRouter server, but I don't think we have access to that. Like, I don't think we can use that API. But all the code to run this is all here. So it'd be interesting to see if we could maybe take some of this code and start tying it into this application so that we can get BRouter working with this tile layer, and then also make it more interactive with other bits. So little markers and stuff that we put everywhere, whatever they're going to do, right? And if we do have to have our own server for this, so you have two options. So this BRouter project is the Android app and also the server combined in one thing. So you can either build the Android app or build the server, at least we think. Maybe someone that has a little bit more Android knowledge and Java knowledge more than I do can answer some of these questions, which is kind of what I'm hoping for. And yeah, so that's BRouter. Does anyone have any questions thus far?
No, again, a great overview of that piece of code. Thanks.
Okay, so what are the other challenges that we have?
Other challenges are,
Jump back.
yeah. So also we're talking about custom styling, right? We might have features that don't appear in the Carto CSS styling.
Yeah, so we can start looking at that again. So where is it? I have way too many tabs open. Here it is. So if we want to make any changes to this tile set, so for example, on the Discord server, a couple of folks were talking about maybe changing some of these tiles to be a little bit more easier to tell the difference between this and this, right? So maybe changing these symbols to not dashed lines, just spaced further apart. Maybe have them like to be like circles or triangles or something. Make it a little bit more so you can visually discern what's what. But to do that, we would have to use this project. So currently, we're getting this tile layer from the Cycle OpenStreetMap server, and that's hosted in France, I think, which is kind of cool. And if we wanted to make any changes to this, any sort of style, any symbols, any of these layers, we have to fork. Well, what we would do is we would fork this project onto Hackforge's organization, and then we would make the changes there. But that also means that we would have to host our own tile server. Now, luckily for us, they do have Docker. They have Docker containers and everything in here, which is kind of neat. So maybe that's a relatively easy thing to do, but there's also the concerns of hosting, right? So whatever solution we do come up with would have to be relatively cheap, right? And this applies to the BRouter server as well. If we wanted or had to support our own BRouter server, then we would have to consider hosting options for that as well.
Yeah, we were even discussing, Randy, if there was a way where we could, maybe the server would only be used for local tiles, right?
Oh,
Like,
yes. Yeah, so one idea that that Chris and I had when we were talking about these projects is one thing we could do to maybe lower the cost of having our own tile server is to only serve tiles for Windsor Essex, right? The general area of Windsor Essex, to try to make it easier to run.
right, yeah. So like any query outside of our
Yeah, it would maybe be
latitude.
like, you would probably just make the tiles just for like maybe this area here, Pelee Island in there. So it would probably include a little bit of Detroit and the surrounding areas. I don't know if you could like exclude Detroit from it. I don't know if you really care at this point, but yeah, it would be nice if we could only have tiles for this area, and then that would potentially lower the cost of hosting your own tiling server. Now, I'm not 100% sure how tiling servers work. I don't know if they generate all the tiles and then put them in a folder and just serve, the static PNGs, or they're generated on the fly and then cached. But either way, minimizing that so that, we're not caching all the tiles for all of Canada or all the tiles for all of North America would definitely help with the cost too. So those are things that we have to consider as well.
Actually, Randy, I was looking online. I believe it's all vector data. I don't think it's any PNG or anything like that. I think it's actually like.
Well, you query PNG files.
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if that's what it's generated from then, eh?
Well, I don't know. Like this could also just be like a fake image. Whereas in like, because like, how do you explain it? There's ways in like, for example, I only really know, like, I don't really play around with, I know Apache can do this, but like Nginx, for example, you can do something called a, it's called like a file send or send file. So basically what you do is you request a file, but then it actually goes to a service behind Nginx. So for example, it could be like a, I don't know, like a PHP app or a Python app, and it actually decides what file it sends, and or it could also generate a stream of data that's sent that is the file. So that's what I meant by like, it could have been generated on the fly. Right. But yeah, it would be using, like, it's going to be using the OpenStreetMap data to generate the tiles. I just don't know if it's something that happens all at once or if it's something that happens on a need basis. Like, I don't really know, to be honest.
Okay.
I haven't really looked into this, how to run this, but that's going to be next on my to-do list, looking at like how to use the trying to spin this up in a Docker container and poke around with it. It'd be kind of neat. See what happens. But yeah, so that's that. So what's the other challenge that we have, Chris? other challenges that we need to overcome.
Yeah, so the only other piece so there's two others that we kind of think are priorities right now, and one is restructuring the repository that we talked about.
Yes.
Maybe we revisit that now for just a second.
Yeah. So the idea right now is I have. Am I still sharing my? I am still sharing my screen. Perfect. So right now I don't have much to this repository. But this is kind of like what I'm playing with right now. So I've taken the example that we currently have in the org, and I've added modern tooling around it. So all of the dependencies, if you've looked at, that's not the right browser, this is the right browser. If we go, here it is. So if you notice, a lot of the dependencies like leaflet and Tingle.js and restore view and all this stuff is just all static files here, which is kind of okay. But if we ever want to update to a new version of leaflet, for example, this becomes a bit of a maintenance nightmare, right? So what I've done is I've made it so that we're using modern JS tooling. And I'm also trying to get it so that it's very easy to load the website locally and have it just work. So I'm working on getting Webpack and then also using Webpack for production so we can deploy this on the site. So for example, deploying it to here. So we want to be able to deploy this here. And we also want to make sure it's still like static and, works on many different browsers and whatnot. So that's what most of this stuff is for. But yeah, so we're slowly working on that. That should be done relatively soon, I hope. And yeah, that's the goal is to hopefully make contributing a lot easier and maintaining this project a lot easier, specifically the web front end part. And then hopefully at the same time, because this is using more modern tooling and stuff like that, it mimics what's available here. So you see here, they use this project is the BRouter web. So if we wanted to start folding in some of this code into our own project, however we're going to do that, we're already ready to go. We already have modern tooling, and we can very easily do that. Is the hope. So,
and then not only is there maintenance and contribution to that, but we also have contribution for like business data and other amenity data that we want to set up for the WindsorEssexCycling area, right? So
yes,
yes. You pull up. Actually, you know what? Why don't I share my screen too?
Sure.
Presentation. I could show you.
Does anyone have any questions? You can feel free to type them in chat as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so yeah, another issue that we're looking at is all the data that we want to contribute to OSM for the WindsorEssexCycling area. I mean, there's a number of interfaces we can do, we can use to do that if we want to submit, one amenity at a time. But I think there's a better way to do that, which is to compile a large database and have businesses and other individuals submit that. So we have a business form that business can fill out and submit all sorts of information like hours of operation, phone number, menu, dietary restrictions. I mean, anything you could think of in terms of what businesses might want to communicate to tourists or anyone who's in the area, really. So we have this in a CSV, it's output in a CSV format, but to do a bulk import to OSM, OpenStreetMap, we need it in an XML format. So I've provided here like a bunch of resources to kind of discuss where we're at on that. Here's a great list of attributes Let me know if this link shows up. Yeah, I think that's presenting to you guys now, eh? I believe so, Randy? Can you see this?
Good. I'm muted. Here we go. Yes, I can see that.
There you go. Okay, cool. So, for example, like you'll see all sorts of points of interest, like police office. So it's pretty well laid out in this document, what you can show. If I can get back here. How do I hide my this bar at the top? There we go. And what we're looking at is providing data in a format. Well, I think XML is pretty. I think we all kind of know what XML looks like. I think I put it maybe. Pardon, I have some. I'm looking after some kids too tonight. If you guys can hear them. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So this is what OSM XML looks like. You can see we start with a OSM object and then indented in there all the data you need. So this is pretty complex. I think the last 10 minutes is probably better served taking questions. But you can see we, latitude, longitude, element ID, and there's just a whole bunch of pieces we can put in here. We also can include user information, and this is generally how you see what OSM data will look like. So we have a challenge, which is to convert our CSS business data, or sorry, CSV business data here into this OSM XML format. And it looks like there has been work on it before. So I provided you with the link there too, for anyone who's interested in looking at that or contributing. Randy and I are on Discord, and we're talking about this here and there. Yeah, so that's another cool challenge if you're into data transformation like that. Yeah.
And that's kind of like an ETL layer that we might have to consider about supporting, right?
Yeah.
So so Sherry had a question, and I'll go ahead and just I'll read it out. Any data we collect, like businesses or POIs, are those all things that OpenStreetMaps wants added to their system, or would we need a DB of info that is relevant to us, but not something OpenStreetMap wants to add, like, I don't know, public restrooms or bike shops, etc. Points of interest. Yes, sorry. Yeah, so any data that we give to OpenStreetMaps, that's data that could be put on a tile, right? If we want to add interactivity to our map, right? So let's say our map that's running online, like our website map, then we would have to have that data stored elsewhere, right? And then we would have to use that data to create like markers and stuff like that. So Leaflet provides a lot of stuff like that, a lot of ability to interact with the map. So those are the two options that we have. So if we give data to OpenStreetMaps, that data then can be used to create tiles. So for example, we could create tiles that do show, I don't know, public restrooms, or maybe we expose that in our tiles and make it more prominent, like we've done with the bike lanes and the bike paths on roads, for example, right? But if we want interactivity, then we would have to collect that data ourselves and store it or serve it. Most likely, because a lot of that data would probably be pretty static, we would probably just have it as like static data that's built into the front end. We wouldn't necessarily have to have a backend to support that. But I mean, we can do whatever we want, right? So we just have to consider the cost of having a particular backend, right? Or, having a database, for example, that we query for data. So, and a lot of that sort of data probably wouldn't change very often. So we could probably just have it as like static stuff. But like back to what Chris was just talking about, yeah, like if businesses want their business added to OpenStreetMaps, that's what that form is for, right? So then we would use that form to generate the XML, and then we would send that to OpenStreetMaps, and then they could add their business to their tiles. But also what would happen is we could also add businesses or their business to the tiles that we generate, or it would also kind of trickle down, and anyone else that uses OpenStreetMap's data for their tiles that they generate would also see their business, right? So it's kind of a big win-win, right? In a way, for the business, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, judging by the popularity of this in other places, right? Like, I think absolutely, if we put a little effort in here, then this will absolutely take off here.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool.
Does anyone
Thanks,
else
Randy.
have any other questions? Yeah, OpenStreetMap does have some weird points of interest categories. I think there's even a layer. I saw a layer for geocaching, which was kind of neat.
I think I saw, yeah, you know what? I kind of pulled up that list of some random ones. I really do like that they put things down like even stop signs. I think that's kind of cool, right? Like things that generally don't get tagged, you have the option to, and that could actually be something that would be used in routing, right? It's kind of cool. Yeah. They really thought that out.
Looks like Sherry has another question. So I'll just read it out. I was picturing something that went beyond what OpenStreetMap handles, like say a month-long biking scavenger hunt. A user could add pips to the map. I'm assuming pips as markers. You'd then need a backend or something to collect or remove points. But if you're sticking to OpenStreetMap and static data, that's okay. Well, I mean, we could do something like that, right? Here's the thing, right? One of the benefits, for example, of having our own tiling server is that if someone else wants to use our tiles or use the CyclOSM tiles as well, they could do that if they wanted to add in or make a game of it as well. And I mean, we could always explore that sort of stuff too. I mean, it's an open source project, so we could always, if there's a lot of interest in more interactivity with the map, then yeah, maybe we do need to have a database, and yeah, maybe we could support you know, kind of fun features like little like scavenger hunts and stuff like that. Or you know, every month it shows, you know, 10 new points on the map and says, hey, if you bike to these points and you'll collect tokens or something, I don't know, internet points, and then you can pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, I actually do like the idea of having a social element to this too at some point.
So Doug has a question. Sorry to cut you off, Chris.
That's all good.
If someone is interested in poking at this project but are a bit overwhelmed with all the info, what's the easiest way and best way to get started? Yeah, that's a tough one at this point because there's so many different moving parts. I would say, I guess it would depend on what part of it you're interested in. What I would do is I would either start with just learning a little bit more about OpenStreetMap and looking at you know, maybe how they collect data, for example, and then also looking at leaflet.js, right? Which is the JavaScript framework that does all the gets all the tiles and displays a nice little app, a nice little map for you in your browser. That's where I would start. And if you start learning more about those, then everything else becomes easier to talk about and to learn. At least that's been my experience. The more I learn about OpenStreetMap and Leaflet.js, the more understanding I have of how all these different bits all fit together, right?
Yeah, right on. And I think too, like from the flip side of that is, if you find that you're struggling like that, like learning doesn't have to happen in a vacuum, right? Like we've got the community here on Discord now, so you can always contact us and we can set up a call and talk about it. You know, we don't have to wait till the next hack or till the next Border City Java call or until the hackathon to start doing that. We can talk any day.
And on the I might not have the thing. If you go to Hackforge's website, if you're not already on the Discord server, yes, thank you, Sherry. Exactly what I needed. So Sherry just posted the Discord invite thing. Thank you, Sherry. Appreciate it. And then under the bits tab, there's a chat called C3_tech. So if you have any questions or any follow-up questions, or if you just want to talk a little bit more about the project, or even talk about some more technical details, and both Chris and I are there, so you can ping us and we'll be happy to chat.
We will.
Yeah. That's not what I wanted. There we go. Cool.
Yeah, thanks, Doug.
Yeah. So if nobody has any other questions, then we can end it here. Thank you everyone for coming. I hope this was enlightening. And yeah, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night, guys.